Well, thank you for tuning in to the Skol State of Mind podcast. It's been a minute. I'm back. So let's hit the intro and get into it.
We in our Skol state of mind. We analyze how you play the line. Purple and yellow, we on the grind. D was the host and he's taking time. With expert opinions, we moving dominion. If passion is in you, then let's go continue. Bank on it just like a stadium venue. The topics we serving up just like a menu. We in our prime, high stepping. You feel the scene like it's cold peppers. Harder like Carter, but keep it smiling. Like this was the catch number 1,000. The show you gon' love it. You better tell your mama, cousin. The internet's talking and buzzing. So pull up a chair and just grab a drink. About the Vikings, tell us what you think. But we in our Skol state of mind. We analyze how you play the line. Everything purple and yellow, let's take it up a level. Start the show, yeah, it's time.
Well, goddamn. That intro still gets me hyped every time I hear it. Well, I've been gone for a minute. Now I'm back. Had a couple of issues with some things. I ain't even going to really get into it. But I've been bubbling a little bit on, social media, giving my take if you follow me on our platforms. But first off, I want to thank everybody being patient for me, during this time of me not recording so much. But I felt like, shit, I got to get back into it. We in the second week of preseason, one more week of preseason, and then we go on full throttle for the season. So there's a couple of topics, I want to talk about concerning this last preseason game. So let's get into it. Here are my initial thoughts on the Minnesota Vikings versus, the Cleveland Browns game on Saturday. Now, first, they won the game, so that's always a win for me. But, preseason isn't really about wins and losses. It's about development, putting players out there to showcase their talent, who's going to make the roster, who's not, bubble guys, stuff like that. I love preseason because I feel like some of the bottom tier roster guys don't really get a lot of shine in practice with the reps. I mean, you got to understand, like, when you're practicing, especially when you're practicing, team joint practice, like, there's not a lot of actual reps that can go around. So the preseason is kind of used to showcase, that. So first off, like, I kind of feel like the Minnesota Vikings came out there, concerning all the, how down everybody was with the JJ McCarthy situation, but they came out to the play, next man up mentality. In my opinion, it's not really even next guy up mentality. McCarthy was still the backup. We not gonna go into that as of right now, but I felt like the Minnesota Vikings had something to prove against the Cleveland Browns. I mean, there was a lot of reports out, during the junk practice this whole week that the cornerbacks were getting beat, that the Cleveland Brown defense was just having a way. And, even though we didn't see the first units on both sides of the ball, for both teams, I feel really good with the outcome of this second preseason game. And one thing to note too, though, it's like, I didn't know going into this game that Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores wasn't going to be calling plays for the, respective sides of the ball. So Wes Phillips did a great job, and whoever called plays for the defense did a hell of a job too. And I mean, that's what I like to see. That's development with not just the players. That's development, with the coaching staff too. So that's something I really like to see. So let's start with the offense. Now, there's been a lot of debate going on about, who's going to be the third, fourth, fifth receiver on this roster. I feel like this. We already know who it's going to be. I mean, as long as Jalen Naylor stays healthy, I feel like he's been having a great camp. Brandon Powell, you guys already know how I feel about that. He's more of a gadget guy. Tristan Sherfield. I think the receiving room is promising. One of the rooms that I'm kind of like, a little scared about is that tight end room. Like, I know TJ Hawkinson is still rehabbing, and, we haven't seen a lot from, what's the guy's name from Green Bay? Forgot. We ain't even gonna talk about it then. But we haven't seen a lot from a lot of these tight ends right now. I feel like Nick Muse has kind of separated himself from everybody else. I mean, Robert Tonyan, that's his name. I think Tonyan, we haven't seen him at all because he's basically hurt. And N'Keal Harry, sad to say, but I don't think he's going to make this team as a tight end going forward. Maybe he can sneak on the practice squad, but you never know. But one of the bright spots that I loved in watching this preseason game was Kene Wangu. At first, the game against the Raiders, I kind of thought like, all right, cool. He broke that one for 48 yards for a touchdown. Is that a fluke? But I can see a difference in his vision and decision making coming out those holes. And I feel like if he can consistently give you anything extra on offense, I mean, with his combined with his speed, like, hey, I'm feeling that. I'm really feeling that because that guy is the fastest person on that team. I mean, and that makes that running back room, so much more dangerous because with the addition of Aaron Jones being the quote unquote bell cow starting back, I do believe he's going to split more carries with Ty Chandler. But just to throw Kene Wangu in situation, those three running backs look good going into the season. And I'm really happy to see Wangu take the step forward to actually contribute on the offense and not just special teams. Okay. So this is something I really wanted to talk about too, because I hear a lot of, misguided views out there on the internet or on social media. Let's talk about the offensive line. Well, Ed Ingram kind of played a couple of series or whatever, and a lot of people actually think that since Ed Ingram played this game, that his job is up, for grabs, and it's actually a competition. Well, let me tell you this. There's no competition if the other guy behind you isn't taking any reps with the first team. I feel like they're kind of short on guards, and they just want to see, Ingram play a little bit more to get his feet wet. And if you really watch the game, you will see that when Ed Ingram kind of got going, he was just thrashing dudes. So let's stop the narrative of just because a guy played in the preseason and other guys didn't, that he is a quote unquote bubble guy or his position on the team is actually in jeopardy, because that's not the case. And we got to stop panicking so much about this offensive line. I think the offensive line will be solid going forward. And I don't want to hear no Dalton Reisner shit, because Dalton Reisner has not done shit in this preseason. He's been hurt all preseason. And if you think about it, if he actually wanted to sign somewhere else, nobody wanted his ass again. So let's stop making it seem like just because guys play in the preseason that their job is on the line. I cannot reiterate that enough. All right. So the quarterbacks, I mean, Sam Darnold didn't play. I understand it. I mean, to me, it's a smart move by not letting Sam Darnold play. And then you got to think so too. Just like I said in the beginning of this episode, that when you're doing joint practices and you're doing things, in training camp, there's not a lot of reps to go along. So I feel like Kevin O'Connell, outside of the point of he doesn't want to get Sam hurt, but you want to see more reps with Nick Mullins. And if you really think about it, if you've been following this team and, following the actual real media sources coming out, Nick Mullins wasn't really getting a lot of reps in practice. Neither was Jaren Hall. And with the first preseason game, he didn't even play. So I feel like now that Nick Mullins is thrust in that role of being, the backup to Sam Darnold, he should play. He can get more reps because majority of the reps in practice are going to Sam. So you have to think about that for a second before you start jumping out the window. So let's move on to the defense. Now, the one thing that stand out outside of Lewis Cine, and we're going to get to that, damn, Brian Asamoah is small. Like, the bro is small. I mean, I've seen him, years before, but on special teams. But when you see him actually playing defensive reps, I'm like, damn, is he a safety? Because he's hella small. I don't know if Brian Asamoah makes this team. And I know I'm starting with the defense on a sour note, but I don't think he makes the team. But as far as everything else I've seen on defense, I've seen basically the defensive line coming out there and actually, the young guys, making their worth. You know, I feel like guys are going to develop on that defensive line, and I think we need to be a little bit more patient of what this defensive line is going to look like going forward. I mean, the corners are the corners. I feel like the corners are adequate. I think the corners are pretty much the one of the weakest links on the defensive unit. But later in this episode, we'll talk about a big signing for the Minnesota Vikings. But I really don't have too much about the defense. Let's talk about my boy Lewis Cine. I told y'all long time ago, Lewis Cine was not a bust. All right. And I know some of y'all gonna come out there and say, well, was it's only one game, he flashed, blah, blah, blah. They wasn't really calling the same defense that they do in practice. I don't want to hear none of that shit. What he showed on Saturday is basically how he played in Georgia, reacting to the football, making plays, coming down there, laying the hit, doing what he do, just actually having fun playing football. Now, you got to understand, I know y'all don't like talking about the injury, but that injury could have ended other people's careers. Now, combined with the injury, you were drafted for a different type of defense scheme. Now you bring in Flores, so he's behind. So let's get it. But something we have to notice is this. Opportunities mean a lot. When I'm talking about opportunities, it's like this. There's a lot of guys that were projected, on a depth chart higher than Lewis Cine. Harrison Smith, Cam Bynum, Josh Metellus, Jay Ward, all these other guys, right? So if you think about it, with the Minnesota Vikings moving Jay Ward, having him playing corner, and then actually, with other guys being hurt, like Jackson or whatever, it actually gave Lewis Cine the opportunity to go out there and showcase his talent, actually play. I don't think they showcased him to trade him. I really don't. I think they just said, hey, fuck it, go out there and see what you're going to do. And he said, all right, cool, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm just going to be myself. And I'm going to say this right now. If he plays another game like he played on Saturday against the Eagles, you cannot deny that you have to roster this guy. Because going forward, I don't believe that Josh Metellus is a quote-unquote real safety. He's one of those X-type players that moves around different positions on the field. But you got Harrison Smith is probably going to be in his last season, playing professional football. And if you have another injury in a safety room, if Lewis Cine comes out there and plays his ass off again, I'm comfortable with throwing him in, second unit, third unit, whatever, because I always believed in this guy. And it's no fluke to me. I just feel like when you playing like that, you playing with confidence. And I'm happy. I'm happy for it. Now, let's talk about overall depth concerns concerning the roster. Now, we want to talk about the offensive side of the ball. I already talked about a little bit about Dawson Reisner. I don't think he's going to make the team. I mean, he ain't did shit in preseason. He's been hurt. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. One of the depth concerns that I do have is concerning Lewis Cine, because I think about it like this. It's like you move Jay Ward to corner. Jackson is not playing because he's hurt. He's slated to come back, the next preseason game against the Eagles. What happens when you move both those guys back to the safety roster? Does that automatically bump Cine down to like the lowest safety on the roster? I don't think so. I just think like this is one of the things that I have a problem with Brian Flores and the Minnesota Vikings. And this even goes back to the Zimmer regime. Like, stop moving guys around and trying to have them play certain positions when they come in to play. They play, I'm a corner coming into the league, right? So I'm going to play corner. I mean, the whole thing with moving guys around, especially like Jay Ward, he getting beat like he stole someone out there playing corner. That's why he's a safety. He's not twitchy with the hips. I'm not going to rag on the guy and say like he's a bad player, but he's a safety. And I kind of feel bad for him because it's like, why y'all even put him out there as a corner when he's not a corner? He's a safety. So I just want to look at that. Like, I don't want Lewis Cine to be the odd man out, with the overall depth concerns. But let's look at the other side of the ball. It's like I said with the tight ends, with the receivers. They looking okay. The tight end is a concern, but we don't even know if TJ Hawkinson is going to play this year. I mean, he's basically going to be out the first, couple of games of the season, if not more. So there are a lot of roster depth concerns going forward. Now, let's keep it moving. Panic meter. I got to address this, and this is probably what got a spark under me to get, my shit together and come back and start recording. As Viking fans, I'm taking this all out there, though. All my Viking content creators out there, all my, everybody who follow, stop fucking panicking. Let this shit play out. And when I say let this shit play out, going into this season, I knew, me personally, that this was going to be a development year, not just for the players, but for the coaches too. All right. Most of y'all come out there and y'all jump out the window every chance y'all get just in case something wrong. I'm starting to believe like, yo, do you really like this team? Because it seemed like you complain about every fucking thing. Just let it play out. You feel me? Just let it play out, and then we can have a conversation about it later. But just jumping out the window and panicking at every moment, we got to stop doing that shit, man. That shit's getting old. I'm just saying it right now. That shit's getting old. Let it play out. Let it play out. I understand JJ McCarthy will not be playing probably this whole season, but shit, I wanted him to have a rest shirt year anyway. So all is not lost. All right. Sam Darnold is not that bad. All is not lost. Let's stop panicking and let's stop jumping out the window for everything. Let's band together around this team, just galvanize and just root for this team. Stop complaining about every fucking thing. Please. So let's get to the signing of the day. The Minnesota Vikings signed Stephon Gilmore to a 1-year contract, $7 million guaranteed. He can get upwards to $10 million with incentives. I like the move. I like the move for a lot of different reasons. It makes you think like, did the Minnesota Vikings already have this signing in the bag, which would lead to them trading away Andrew Booth to the Dallas Cowboys earlier? Because if they did, then they would have a logjam at, cornerback. Even though guys after Stephon Gilmore, Caleb Evans, Brian Murphy, and Shaq Griffin. Now that shit sounds way better than what it was before. Like those names sound a whole lot better than what it was before. So I just hope Gilmore can come in here and actually be a veteran presence to this, especially to his position group and help this team out. I mean, he's 34 years old. I hope he still has something left in the tank, but I like the fact that maybe you can put Griffin and Gilmore on the outside and have Brian Murphy Jr. play the inside where she's way more better at. And that was a lot of my gripe, last week with Brian Flores, putting him on the outside, and basically he plays way better inside. And I'm real big on putting players in the position to succeed. By putting Brian Murphy on the outside, he's not in a position to succeed. So with Gilmore coming to this, roster, to this cornerback room, it can solidify it. It really can. I'm really excited about it. But shit, we don't know. We got one more week of preseason before that 90-man roster go to 53. So it might be a surprise to all what's going to happen. So closing statements. Now, the Minnesota Vikings got one more week training camp or whatever, one more week, one more preseason game to prepare for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I'm going to be dropping way more videos, and I'll be getting on way more podcasts, in the future, because I feel like I got my feedback under me. But there's a lot of players I want to see. A lot of players I want to see ball out. I want to see Lewis Cine do it again against the Eagles. And don't give me that shit about we gonna showcase him to trade him. I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear that shit. So I want to see him ball out. Just the bubble guys, man. I want to see a lot of the bubble guys who probably are going to make this practice squad. I want to see them actually have a good opportunity to go out there and showcase themselves. And, we're going to pack it up and prepare for the season. I mean, it's going to be more news dropping in the next couple of days. One of the main reasons why, like, I'm gonna let y'all know this, like how I felt like while I wasn't recording so much, is because with the training camp, it's like there's not a lot that I can actually see. I could have to really rely on the reports that come out. And I do that anyway. But at the same time, it's like if there's no live game out there where I can see the actual footage of the game or the all 22 and get into it, I kind of felt like my position was limited. And that's a good thing. Like I feel like about myself is like I'm not finna, just half-ass it. If I can't do 100, I ain't gonna do it at all. So, like I said before, man, I really appreciate y'all, being patient with me. I'm probably going to develop a schedule of how I'm going to release it. I'm in the talks of hopping on somebody else's podcast consistently throughout the week. But if you haven't, follow me on all social media platforms, subscribe to the YouTube page. If you really looking for a fan's perspective that's not highly emotional, I'm not going to say I don't get emotional about this team because I love this team, but I don't deal with a lot of my content with just emotion. And if I talk about something, I'm willing to back it up. So, you know how I end it? Skol, baby.